For hundreds of years, the British travelled overseas and took control over different parts of the world. This was called the British Empire. It existed for nearly 400 years, at one point covered a quarter of the Earth's surface and ruled over 400 million people. They controlled countries like Jamaica, modern-day Ghana and British India, which included Pakistan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. Author and journalist Sathnam Sanghera's parents were from Punjab, which was once ruled by the British.
This is the fulfilment of a lifetime's ambition to be on Newsround. So.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear it.
Psyched.
Okay, let's go.
What inspired you to write this book?
My main inspiration was the fact that I didn't know this history until I was in my mid-40s. And I think if you understand that we are a multicultural country today because we had a multicultural empire and that brown and black people have been here for centuries, you can really stop a lot of racism. And I think the sooner kids learn about it, the better it is for the whole country.
If you were in charge, how would you teach the British Empire?
I'd make it totally compulsory because it explains so much about modern Britain. Not least you and I are here today because of the British Empire, because our parents came from there. But also it's the biggest thing we ever did as a country. And it should be up there with World War I and II and the Tudors as something we teach everyone.
What things do we have in the UK today that have been shaped by the British Empire?
There are so many things. I mean, tea, sugar, cocoa, these are things that were cultivated in empire. Our racism and multiculturalism, some of our wealth. I think there's so many things about Britain can be explained by empire. And then, of course, you've got our museums. So many of our museums have artifacts from the empire.
Now, I have a question for you as well. Some politicians last year who were responsible for schools in England said that they thought the positives of the empire should be taught as well as the negatives. What did you think when you heard politicians say this?
In my lifetime, politicians generally say either we should teach the positives of empire or they say we should teach the crimes of empire. And I think actually we need to teach both. And actually we shouldn't talk about empire in that binary way. Everything to do with empire was complicated. They were good, they were bad, they were opposite things. So for example, the British Empire involved slavery, which was a terrible thing, but also the British were responsible for abolition and abolishing slavery all around the world. So those are two opposite things. British Empire explains our amazing diversity in this country, but it also explains some of our racism. So again, you've got opposite things there, and opposite things can be true.
And should politicians be given advice about the way history in the British Empire is being taught?
Generally, I think politicians should leave it to historians to talk about history because it's a very complicated area and it doesn't need their politics to intrude.
OK, Maxwell, you've got another question for us.
Yeah. What is your favourite chapter in the new book and what would you say that means to you?
My favourite chapter is probably the chapter on nutmeg because this is something you might have had if you've had a gingerbread man. It's a tiny little spice you can buy really cheaply now. But once upon a time, it was really valuable. And it's one of the reasons why British Empire started, because British people were so desperate to give their food a nice flavour that we ended up going to war over this tiny island that produced nutmeg. So I think that's an amazing way into the story.
Thank you so much. It was great to chat to you. And thanks, guys, for all your questions. You're wonderful.
Yeah, you're fantastic.